I told you.
You were
I
right.
told you. I told you. On time, what's happening?
Welcome on in, everybody. It is Tuesday night. My name, of course, is Seth Bidoff. That's Jacob Terrell. And joining us this evening, our captain, former New Mexico United player, Kalen Ryden is here with us this evening, guys. We've been excited for this. We've been prepping for this one for a couple of weeks now. Kalen, first off, how are you? How's the family? How is life in Oklahoma?
First off, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. I'm looking forward to this. Life has been pretty good, pretty solid. I can't lie though. It's been a little weird, not playing soccer right now and seeing the club and the team post, but I'm healthy. My wife is healthy. And my daughter is, we're back in Oklahoma right now. It's been, about 2.5 months since, we've been back, and we're settling back, here in Oklahoma, closer to family. And overall, life is good, but I definitely miss playing soccer, being in New Mexico, but it's just kind of how life works. And it's time for me to be back here.
For sure. It's weird not having you there. I will tell you that. Coming in after the very first year, you're as much part of this club as the year one guys, in my opinion. And so I was at the press conference a couple weeks ago when we've had some preseason matches, and Kalen not being there is a bit strange and a bit sad. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm excited to see what you're doing now. For one, I've kind of known you've done a photography thing for quite a while, kind of on the side. And now you looks like you're going to be able to do that for a job, at least a little bit. Tell us about that new gig.
Yeah, so just announced that was last Wednesday, I think. Oklahoma in general actually has quite a bit of soccer going on. I know FC Tulsa is the only USL Championship side, but WPSL is here, MPSL, UPSL, and hopefully the Oklahoma City Energy will be coming back in 2028. So there was an opportunity that opened up with OKC FC, which is women's team that compete in WPSL. And yeah, it's my first official photography gig. But that season is very short in comparison to what we're used to in the USL. So that's really it's going to be like April, May, June, July. But yeah, I'm pursuing other photography opportunities within the area, and trying to accumulate as many clients and contracts as I can. But yeah, I'm excited for the summer and to kind of have full control of the team and the Instagram and the website or whatever. It'll be all my images, and I'm working with a social media director there too who does graphics, and so we'll be able to collaborate and get pretty creative. So I'm really excited to start my next journey, staying involved in soccer, but through a creative world.
Yeah, we've seen some of your work with FC Tulsa, and following Tambakis over there a little bit, and being able to go out there to their trainings and matches. How did that come about, and have you been able to keep up with Tamby there?
Yeah, so it was really good to see Tamby. I knew, when they announced that he was playing in Tulsa, I was like, I'm not going to be far from him. So him and I will definitely, we've always stayed in touch, ever since the end of this last season. But now that he's close by, he's in my home state, I want to make sure he's taken care of well. And so I'm going to see him a lot. And yeah, the FC Tulsa opportunity was kind of something that I just went out for and emailed some people. I actually used to play with their GM, who is Caleb Patterson Sewell. He was my goalkeeper when I played for the Jacksonville Armada back in 2017. And so just had a conversation with him. I reached out to their creative director, and I just asked for an opportunity to come up and shoot their preseason game. So that was a few weeks ago. Got to showcase myself, to the club there, and there may be an opportunity there. we'll see if anything comes of it. But I went back this last weekend actually on Saturday and shot for, their most recent preseason game as well. So like I said, just pursuing any and all opportunity here and working in a different way than what I'm used to, since I'm not actually training on the field now.
So as diehard United fans, it kind of hurts a little bit to see you.
You don't think it hurts me?
I know, that's what I was going to ask.
That's the team that
I
ended
hope
my
so.
career. You think I
I
enjoy
hope
being
so.
around those guys?
Yeah, that was I've loved your images. Not just, I mean, we really haven't seen much of your soccer photography skills until recently. So I've always loved what you've done outside of the soccer landscape as well. But seeing you with FC Tulsa and your stuff there, it's been awesome to see. Before we moved to Fort Sumner, I had a little photography business. Never got into sports photography until I started covering United, and even that now is kind of take a couple pictures and then it's a lot of video for social media. But
Yeah,
but loving the style and loving what you're doing.
I appreciate that.
With Tambi being over there and joining, not just photography, not just photographing the team that knocked you out, but actually joining that team. It just kind of reminds me of a little bit of how sports are weird like that, and how it's kind of easy to kind of bounce around. Now, Tambi was here for a long time as well, but when we look at your career, you had a few stops before United, but United was by far your longest tenure here, and where you ended up retiring from. What, going back to the beginning of your United career, you win the championship with Real Salt Lake or Real Monarchs, and then bounce over here, sign the contract on your wedding night, and then ended up staying here the rest of the time. What made New Mexico so special, basically?
Well, I'll start by saying when I, in 2019, winning the championship with the Monarchs obviously was fantastic, but I knew that the Monarchs wasn't like where I wanted to be. And there were, a few teams that were on like, this list of mine in terms of like ideal destinations, because what I did want was to go somewhere to establish myself, to like really invest in like a team, into like a community. And again, you don't have many markets in the USL that have what New Mexico has, and some of these other, markets as well. And so I was like, I want to go somewhere. I want to essentially finish my career at some place. Didn't know where that was, as I was thinking about all of this. And New Mexico was one of those places. And so I didn't necessarily know that was going to happen when I came here in 2020. But it didn't take long for me to kind of realize that this place was quite unique and extremely different than any other market in USL. And I've recently told this story, but 2020 obviously was a wild year, and we spent the whole season on the road or whatever, and that was crazy. But honestly, when we would travel in 2020, we had fans that would stand on overpasses as the bus drove by with like flags. They'd be in their jerseys, just like we are driving, 80 miles per hour on a charter bus on the highway. I mean, we see these people for a split second. They just see a bus. You can't even see inside. And I was like, damn, like this is like, these people are real. These people like love this club. And like, I just felt this like extra desire to like really represent this state and these like people as best I can. And it really was like in those moments, and even too, like before we left for those games, like people are showing up and masks dropping off, like these care packages, like each player got an individual care package with like, treats and water and blankets and pillows. I mean, I was like, these people genuinely care, and it's not just, we're just going to show up and like, be happy when you win and be pissed off when you lose. Like these people care about us and care about this team. And so it didn't take long for me to realize, I was like, okay, I think this is it. This is the place. And obviously Troy Lesane was running the show at that point. And, my my option was picked up in 2021, and then it wasn't long after that where Troy was like, we're going to extend you 2 more years, and then it kind of was at the point. At that point, I was like, all right, this is the place. I'm staying here for the rest of my career, and so yeah, so I think that's kind of the reason why I decided to really set up shop in New Mexico, because that 2020 bizarre year really showed like the true love that the fans and the people have for this club.
But I had never thought, like, I've obviously had known that you joined in 2020, but I never put it together that you didn't have a home game that whole first season with us. So you came here to experience the lab and how crazy it is, and then you didn't get to for the first year. That I hadn't put that together, which we started this podcast in 2020, and so it was definitely a weird situation. And so I'm glad. I don't know if everybody would have seen, maybe they would have, but I don't know if everybody would have seen the passion that they have not being able to experience the home games. And so kids are getting in trouble. Sorry. And so that
well, I mean, again, that's just like an extra additive to the fans. Like, I didn't have a home game in 2020, but I still felt like this connection to the fans, and like I felt their real passion and love and desire to support and be behind the team. But I didn't even have a home game, so it was like it's crazy that I felt that with no home game. So there was a lot of anticipation for me that build up for 2021. Because obviously 2019, that arguably could have been the best season in terms of like fan experience, fan base in New Mexico. It was a brand new team. The crowds were unbelievable. There's something different about that inaugural season. And so that obviously was another reason why I was attracted to the club. And then I didn't get any of it 2020. But then that first game of 2021, I finally got a dose of it. And that was lovely. I won't forget that game.
I'm going to pick on you a minute here, because in 2019, when y'all came to the lab, when you were with Real Monarchs, it wasn't your guys' best performance. I'll put it that way. And it was the first match that I couldn't make it to. Now I had a really good reason. My son was born during the match. And so I was in the hospital for that. But you guys could have played a little better defense and made me not have that much fear missing out during that particular match. But
I'm gonna go and hop off. All right, see you guys.
But then you come here, and one thing I was looking at that was kind of a weird anomaly that I saw was you had roughly 60 some odd appearances with Real Monarchs and had 8 goals. And then I don't know if you had 8 goals total anywhere or between all your other stops. Why was that? Well, do you have an answer to that? Because I just saw it and it stuck out to me.
Yeah. And if you're counting playoff goals, I think it was 9 my 2 years there, because I had 1 in playoffs. Well, so I always say this. I credit it to Justin Portillo. He was on both of those years with me in Monarchs. He had a brief stint here, with New Mexico as well. He took all of our set pieces in Salt Lake City. It's funny. I don't really have a great answer for that, because trust me, there were plenty of opportunities that, like, headers and chances that I missed, being in New Mexico. I guess it was just kind of one of those periods where, and I will be honest too, there were a lot of, set pieces that were designed to find me, in the Monarchs. It was like specific corners and free kicks that were meant to find me. And that was the case at periods of time in New Mexico. So I think maybe there was just a larger focus to, the Monarch staff really was trying to find different ways to like find my head on these set pieces. Because if I'm being honest, I think 8 of those 9 goals were headers. Only 1 was with my foot. And I think, 15 of my 17 career goals were with my head, So I'll just attribute it to that, just more designed plays to find me.
Well, and Portillo's a good shout. I mean, he in his brief stint here, he was special on set pieces as well. So I could see that being the case. I forgot that we brought him over a year after we brought you over from there. So that was a good pickup by us, I guess.
And one of my goals for New Mexico when we were away to Tampa was from a Justin Portillo set piece. When we played away to Tampa, that might have been 22, maybe. I don't know, but one of my goals away to Tampa was a Justin Portillo assist. So again, that kind of backs my argument.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of that 2020 season, we've had Bees on him a few times in the past. So we've talked about how he came to New Mexico, right? But we haven't really touched on that 2020 season. Talk to us a little bit about how difficult that was for you guys as a player and as a club, being away from home as much as you were, the travel, the quarantine, and just the experience of not being able to really spend more than a few days here at a time.
Yeah, it was interesting for a lot of reasons. And I'll focus on your question about kind of the difficulties as a player. The hardest part for me, and I think a lot of the guys, and these are things that most fans, probably don't really think about or know. But normally, like when we travel, like, if you travel to an away game, now it's, if the game's on Saturday, you fly in on Friday, you play the game Saturday, and then you come home Sunday. So 2020, we are busing everywhere except for our Salt Lake City trip, but we bust everywhere, So we drive, 6.5, 7 hours to Colorado Springs because you're in a bus, you're going a little bit slower. And sometimes we drive the morning of the game and you play the game and then you hop on the bus right after the game. Like there's no overnight stay because of all the, they wanted to limit like our time in hotels or like in these other markets. And so for me, the toughest part was playing 90 minutes, hopping, doing a locker room shower, like Colorado Springs at that time, the shower setup was like this, like shipping container with like 3 showers. And by the fourth, like the fourth or fifth shower, like the hot water was gone, you know what I mean? And it's just not the greatest of setups. And then you hop on the bus and you drive back home and you get home at, 3 a.m. And so like that was really took a toll on me, like physically. And that's pretty, that's really tough to balance all that out. I will say though, on the other side of that, the situation was out of our control in terms of having every game on the road and COVID in general. But we really tried to like enjoy those bus rides and like make the most of them versus just kind of being all like grumpy and upset about it and like, oh, this is horrible. Da, da, da. I think it really bonded that team more so than a regular season where you're, flying and you have games, at home and then on the road. Like we were in these buses so often, we just made the most of it, just playing card games and, after we'd win, and stop at a gas station on the way home and we'd have a couple beers, in the back of the van, or in the back of the bus. And just little things like that really made the year so unique and special because normally you're not on those buses. So I think that group was really, really close and really tight because we were kind of all in that, situation together. And it wasn't the greatest, but like we had each other. And I think that's what was kind of the opposite side of the difficult situation was it was kind of beautiful in the same light.
Over your time within the league and just around, lower league soccer in general, how has the landscape changed over the past several years? We've talked to Pete, we've talked to Ron, we've talked to Bees about how they've perceived it. For you and your experience, what has the league done right since its inception and over the past few years, and what is it doing right going forward? Are there still things that you think it could improve upon?
So my first USL experience was in 2015. I went on loan to play for the Austin Aztecs. I played about 9 games. And Austin's home field was turf, football lines, lacrosse lines. I mean, it was not a great, and the turf itself wasn't great. The dimensions of the field were small, like so I think when I think about that time, just from like a field standpoint, I think the stadium situation is exponentially better than what it was. I mean, 2015, 2016, the energy were around. They played in Taft Stadium, horrible turf, small field, dimensions weren't big enough. There was a track right around it. I mean, that's just not, those aren't like ideal, legitimate, like professional environment stadiums. And so I think the league has each year taken a step forward, and the stadium situation is overall better. Even obviously playing in a baseball stadium isn't ideal, but we're not like Louisville when they used to play at Slugger Field and like they had grass and turf laid down, which I don't know if many people know that, but like the infield area where the dirt is was turf that was like stapled down, and then the rest was grass. You know what I mean? So, and obviously Louisville have a beautiful stadium now, and the setup in New Mexico isn't a bad situation. Like the field is top notch. I think it's one of the best, services, especially late in the year when baseball's done playing. It's a lovely pitch. And then also too, I think from a financial standpoint, in terms of like player salaries, have gotten exponentially better. Still, I'm sure you guys are very up to date with the CBA and what's going on. And right now, the CBA and the players are very loud about what's going on, which is great. And even though there's still a lot of room for improvement, I think um, from a player salary standpoint, things have gotten better. Like, the league has been slowly moving in the right direction when it comes to salaries. And then I just think overall, like the exposure, ESPN Plus, some of these games on like CBS and ESPN2 throughout the year, the overall exposure. Because again, when I was first started playing, it was like you can catch these games on like on USL, like USL's YouTube channel, like on YouTube, .com. Like that was it. They weren't on like TV. There was no ESPN Plus deal. So in terms of those are the three aspects that kind of come to mind right away. And because of like the more like awareness and more eyes, obviously fan bases have grown. And you kind of people are really embracing like supporting your local team regardless if they're MLS or not. You know what I mean? If you live in like Vermont, and that Vermont team that's out there, yeah, they're not like USL Championship or MLS, but like people are supporting their team. And I just think overall the growth of soccer is moving in the right direction, has done really well, and the USL I think has just gotten more eyes on itself, which ultimately has grown the league from a level standpoint too. Like there's some high quality players that are in the league now too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. I feel like we've noticed just the quality of play overall in the USL Championship from 2019 even to now is substantially different and feels like it's just better soccer. And I was curious if you felt the same way, but it sounds like you do. And with you being in the USL that whole time, most of it with New Mexico, you've had. I'd be curious to know how many teammates you've actually had with New Mexico. New Mexico usually does a pretty good job of retaining a good core, but you've gone through the Lassane era, the Prince era, the Quill era, and then that first year with Sanchez. Throughout those different stints with different coaches and different teammates, how were you able to? What did you do to make yourself a leader, regardless of who was around you as a coach or player or anything like that?
I think for myself, it's just kind of always been, in me to like be a leader. Um and a lot of that comes from like my communication, like being vocal. Obviously when I came in 2020, I didn't come in right away guns blazing trying to run the show and tell everyone what to do and this and that, but I'm more so like I'm very vocal, like when it comes to like training and like, just kind of like, motivating guys. I'm not very negative. I'm not loud. I don't yell at guys to like work harder, do better kind of thing. I'm very like encouraging and positive, and I don't really focus too much on like, the negative aspect, or everyone's going to make mistakes. Obviously I'm not going to emphasize, on mistakes. But I've always been loud, and I've always been, someone who was vocal. And so coming here in 2020, towards the end of that season, Troy was like, "Hey, I just really enjoyed, like your presence and your leadership in certain ways. And you can also be a leader like off the field. Not everything has to take place like on the field. And just because I don't view a leader as someone who like always has to lead all the time. in like that regard, but just, like even if I were to organize just like a barbecue and get all the guys together, like something like that, like not every player, not everyone like is gonna take that initiative. And so that's also another element to myself. I'm a very social person. I want to get the guys together. I want to get us like together off the field. I want guys to relax and have some food, have a couple beers, like just kind of there's a lot of stress and a lot of things that come with, being a professional soccer player. And so like just the combination of those two, I think is kind of, I don't want to say what sets me apart, but I think that's just kind of what people value um, in me, and view that as like a leadership quality. I also really like to connect everybody, and I don't want to come in and only talk to the same guy every morning. I want to, have banter with everyone and have jokes with everyone and all these things, and just make sure we're all together and on and off the field. So, Troy just, spoke to me at the end of 2020. He wanted more from me out of a leader. And so 2021 and forward, I just kind of took on a heavier role, and learning from the likes of Suggs, who is a bit more stern and doesn't take any shit, and I kind of, took that on as well, and tried to make sure I instilled, all of those things while still being myself, but also like letting guys know if the standard's not up to par, like I'm going to let you know, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to hold each other accountable. So just the combination of all those things and learning from guys that were in front of me, I think have really shaped the leader who I became.
Did you have to tweak that, how you addressed other players or addressed coaches or something like that throughout the different in leaders that you had with Quill and Sanchez? From mainly, I'm looking at those two. Quill and Sanchez from the outside seem to be very drastically different people. Were you able to just stay true to who you are and do the same things, or did you have to kind of mold yourself to fit what they wanted out of you?
I mean, I definitely had different, each manager did approach me differently and kind of asked different things of me, but it didn't change on how I presented the message, if that makes sense. Um, and I'm also very, transparent with my managers, and I'm like, hey, listen, if you're not happy with me, if you're not happy with anything about me on or off the field or the team, like be honest. Like we're all grown men. You can speak the truth. Like we're in a professional sports world. Like don't hold back. I'm not going to hold back. So even though they were different personalities and asked different of me, I didn't really change. I had the same conversation with both of them when they first came in about just transparency and being honest. And if there's, be honest with me, I can relay messages to the team, just, and so I simply answer your question. No, there was no different approach, even though each manager, kind of presented their own different tone to me, if that makes sense.
For sure. Sorry.
No worries.
As I mentioned earlier, getting over sinus infection still. So I want to focus kind of on these last 2 years for the last little bit of time that we have you here. You obviously win a championship with Real Monarchs, and then come here, and I would say 2020 through 2023 was up and down. We had some success, won a playoff game against San Antonio, and then just never could really find our footing. And then Quill comes in 2024. Well, he comes in late 2023, and we make the playoffs there. But first, really full year with Quill, we get the 1 seed in the West. We're flying pretty high, and then Vegas comes into town, kind of spoils that party. When it comes to 2024 specifically, what went right there? What kind of clicked for the team, and then unfortunately, what happened against Vegas, and how, as a leader of the team, how do you handle such heartbreak when we were the better team that night? We just didn't come out on top.
Eric coming in, obviously, like you said, into 2023, but it was really, he had a little bit of he had some off season to bring in some guys that he wanted to bring in. And 2024 is really when like we felt the change. And as people can probably see just from watching the sideline, or even just hearing Eric speak. He's brutally honest. He's very intense. His mentality is through the roof.
I loved his press conferences because we went from Troy and Prince, who were very buttoned up and give you the media answer, and then you ask Quill, and Quill would just tell you how it is. It was amazing from a media standpoint.
Yeah. It was like he had never had any type of media training in his life.
No.
But it was brilliant. You know what I mean? And so that kind of helped me segue to the point here, because Troy and Zach were so, I mean, if we want to, lack of a better word, button up and professional and media trained. So Quill kind of brought this energy that the club hadn't seen before from a managerial standpoint. And it was this very intense, winning is the only thing that matters. You have to work your ass off every single day of training. And if you don't do things right on the weekend, you're not going to play the next weekend. It was hostile in a way, but in a good competitive environment. And so I think the club kind of needed that change at manager, and clearly it was effective. And it was effective because of what I just said. For those reasons, it was every day guys were worried about losing their spot, whether that was as a starter, whether that was being in the 18. There was this sense of urgency and uncertainty, from players from week to week. Because you play on the weekend, you lose a game, it's like, oh, shit, is that me? Is it, am I going to be the reason? Am I going to be the change? I mean, it was, some people don't handle that well, and don't like that kind of volatility. But for myself and for a lot of players, it resonated well. And guys who had been here, the Bruceys, Will Seymour, Tambakis was here. We all enjoyed the change, and we welcomed that different type of intensity. And so that clearly was effective. And like you said, finished top in the Western Conference in the regular season 2024. That Phoenix game was electric, that first home playoff game. And then, sometimes that's football. Not the better team doesn't always win. And in those moments, obviously, Zico makes a mistake that game, which leads to the goal late in the game. But it's not it's important in that moment to let Zico know that it's you made a mistake, yes, but it's there were so many other moments in the game where guys could have scored, or I mean, it's not, it's don't look at this this is your fault and you've done this to the team, to the state or whatever. Keep your head up high. You're such an important piece of this team. And we're going to be back in these types of positions. This club is moving in the right direction. So that was kind of not only my message to Zico, but just to the team in general after that loss. And in the offseason and the preseason, it was guys, we finally got a taste of that's the farthest the club has ever gone. Well, at that point it was, back to the Western Conference semifinals. And it was we're moving in the right direction. We're going to be back. And when we are back, you're not going to make that mistake, Zico, and things like that. So it's tough because I'm also sad. I'm also upset. But in those moments, you just kind of have to throw whatever I'm feeling kind of aside and just be there for the guys, and especially when guys are emotional, you need to support them however you can.
Yeah, Zico was very tore up after that. We all could see it in the stands and then down there on the sideline and stuff, and so I that was rough. But like you said, we were on the come up at that time, assuming we would continue to grow, and then Quill leaves. Now I know as fans, we speculated midseason when Dallas lost their coach that he might go there, and so it was always kind of, I think, in us diehards' minds, anyways, that might be the case. Did you guys have any inclination going into that postseason that he might leave, or then when he does, how do you guys handle that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say really the team had any idea until like just right when the season ended. Like right, we lose to Vegas, and then obviously we have player meetings, like the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And it was like that week where we were kind of like, okay, I think we know what's going on, but it wasn't anything that we knew during the season or during playoffs. And and also too, similar to you guys as fans, like when that happened mid-season, we're thinking the same thing, but I mean, nothing was excuse me, nothing was spoken or spoken to us about it. We weren't told any kind of information until the season ended. Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult, like when you're successful and then your head coach leaves. But like it made sense, and he only did what is best for his situation. And at the end of the day, soccer and sports in general is a pretty selfish sport, in terms of you kind of always have to do what is best for you and your situation. And he was successful here. He had an opportunity to take the next step. I mean, if players come here and are successful and do well for the club, and then they get an opportunity in MLS, I mean, they're going to take it. You know what I mean? And so you couldn't really be upset at him, or blame him for anything. But then it's always just like, it's kind of like, all right, it's going to be a little difficult, starting over with a manager, and don't really know when that's going to be announced. When are you going to meet him? Like, when are we going to make some off-season signings? Are our guys who are here that come? I mean, that's the uncertainty, is like, who's coming back? When are we going to get this new manager? Like, when are we going to start making signings and things like that? But the transition from Quill to Dennis was pretty seamless.
Okay, tell us a little bit more about that, because obviously you lose to Vegas, to Sanchez at the end of 24, and then they go in, and from our understanding is Vegas just forgot to file some paperwork in terms of keeping Dennis, and the club goes in and signs the guy that just eliminated you guys from the playoffs. We as media had a little bit of fun with Dennis in his introductory press conference. We asked him, hey, what about that 12th man?
Yeah.
What was that transition for you guys? Is there any sort of like, man, you just beat us. Like, why are you here? Right? Why not stay with the club that you went to the final with?
Yeah. Well, I think similar to Eric's situation is, even though Vegas and New Mexico are in the same league, I do think leaving Las Vegas and coming to New Mexico is an upgrade. So from Dennis's standpoint, yeah, I just threw a little shade at Las Vegas Lights right there, but I got no problem doing that now. So I don't have to be media trained now as a player. I'm retired, so I can say whatever I want. And so, I think Dennis saw that as a better opportunity for himself, regardless of what just happened in the Western Conference semifinals. And so he made a decision, I think, to take the next step in his career. And us as players, I don't really think. I mean, we probably had a few jokes about it in the beginning, and might have said some jokes to Dennis, and like kind of just in between us as players. But it's not. I don't know. I don't really think that we felt some type of way just because it's like he was the head coach. I wonder maybe if like we would have gotten like 5 or 6 like Vegas players, which I know we've got a couple now, but like immediately after, like let's say we signed 6 guys from that starting 11 team, and if those guys show up day one of preseason, like I don't want to see those guys. You know what I mean? It's so I think there's a little bit of a difference from like manager to player, in that regard. But we definitely had a few jokes, but it didn't take long for us to kind of, I don't want to say move on, but it wasn't a topic of discussion for that long. And before we knew it, it was like Dennis. We were watching film, we were going through tactics, and it was just like, all right, he's our manager, and we got to buy in, and he's here with us, and clearly he's effective. He's a good manager. He just took Vegas, and it's like, all right, well, he can take us even further. That's kind of the mindset in the beginning. Like he's going to do the same thing again. We're going to, go deep in the playoffs. And so it was really smooth.
And you guys did end up going farther in the playoffs than you did with Quill. But that's not to say that the regular season was smooth by any means.
Yeah.
You know, you get the shoulder injury against Lexington, and that kind of derails the season for a little while, I would say. You know, we bring Kip in, the change in goalkeeper. It was just kind of a strange season, especially in the middle there. And you mentioned with Quill always feeling like you could be the one that gets subbed out if for the next game if you're not up to par. Funny because like I knowing the personalities as little as I do, I can see that. But when it comes to actually what happened on the pitch, it definitely seemed like Sanchez rotated spots and gave other players opportunity if you weren't performing. And honestly, I don't even know if you could say if you weren't performing, because to us, the Tambakis Shakes kind of situation, Tambakis was performing for the most part, and it was pretty clear to us that, you know, the problem when we started letting in goals there was you get injured and then we're kind of scrambling at center back and don't really have an answer there. But he makes that switch. You know, Talon ends up moving out to the right when you come back, and Keller's healthy and everything like that. How was adjusting to kind of his managerial style as far as playing time was concerned, and how he carried himself as compared to Quill?
I think the biggest difference, or kind of Dennis's approach, is like we don't get too high, we don't get too low. We try and stay even keel through wins, through losses, through bad performances, you know. And not that Eric didn't like trust us, but you know, I think Dennis is very trusting in his team, and understands that we're going to make mistakes, you know, and it isn't too cutthroat when it comes to like decision making, if you will. And so, you know, the dip in the middle of the season, you know, could have been for a lot of reasons. I mean, you lose games sometimes, and obviously, if you knew why you were losing, you would never lose. You know, it just, you know, things just kind of happen. Things don't go well, and then, you know, the mentality, some mindset of guys change. I mean, if you have a couple guys off who aren't really believing in themselves, and that's kind of what it felt like. It was like, you know, we almost didn't like believe like in like our ability, you know, and so for a number of reasons, those things can happen, and it's always difficult to kind of get those things back on track. But, you know, I think, you know, giving credit to Dennis just about, obviously the dip in form wasn't great, but, you know, he stayed even keel and he stayed true to who we were. Like, we weren't going to try and change tactics. Yeah, maybe guys were playing in different positions, but, you know, these guys are professionals for a reason. And if you are called to play a little bit of a different position, I mean, it's your job to step up and perform in that position if that's what's, you know, is being asked of you. And so, you know, Dennis just sticking to who he was as a manager, what we wanted to do, and eventually slowly like kind of ride out that storm. And that's kind of true to most teams and in most leagues in the world. I mean, obviously you have like your upper echelon of teams, like, you know, this year, like, you know, Arsenal, like these teams aren't losing very often, but most teams, and especially the USL level, I mean, you're going to have, we have Arsenal fans, or did I?
No, I'm a Tottenham fan.
Oh, wow.
It's a
Yeah, you just got
touchy
thrashed.
subject right now. Yeah, thanks. I
Yeah,
appreciate
sorry.
that.
I mean, I hate that.
You
I
know
just
what?
said Arsenal, but
I'm just gonna cut out right now. You guys finish the pod. We'll be
Hey, I'm a Chelsea fan. I hate the Arsenal's winning the league right
Okay,
now. I
good,
hope they bottle it. I want them to lose. But I'm just saying, like, you know, they're obviously a rare team in the scheme, you know, the larger scheme of things. But like, it'd be naive of us to like start game one and be like, we're just going to cruise this season.
Right.
You know, like it was always going to be ups and downs. Obviously, we don't want the downs to last that long. But, you know, there wasn't rash decisions made. You know, I do think, you know, I say this as humbly as possible. I do think getting myself back involved and like with the team, like like when I was back training and being able to be a bit more, vocal and like with the guys again and kind of just reignite things and have these like conversations with guys like, hey, we just, we're fine here. We just got to change a few things, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I might have gotten off on a random tangent there. I don't know if I fully answered the question, but I think that's what I'm sticking with.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And I know we're going to get you out of here in just a minute, but I wanted
All good.
to kind of touch about retirement. That was a decision that you made before the end of the season last year. What led up to that decision in as much detail as you want to give, obviously, and then when we go out the way we go out to Tulsa, making it that far, was there any kind of like, oh man, I like unfinished business type stuff with not being able to go out, at least making it to a final?
I'll start, I signed, my contract for 2026, and as that was happening, it was a family decision, in this world of sports, my wife is very much involved, clearly, since I signed my contract on our wedding night. It just felt like it was just time. I told myself, regardless of what happened or what was going to happen in 2026, whether I played every single game, whether I didn't play a game at all, whether I break my collarbone in the middle of the season, like no matter what happens, I know that this is my last year. I'm proud of everything that I've accomplished and achieved leading up to this point. I just really want to make a conscious effort to show up every day, work hard, have a smile on my face, enjoy these moments with my teammates. And so I think just knowing that it was my last year just really made me enjoy the year a lot more. I also wanted to retire on my terms versus the game retiring me. And that could be for a number of reasons. That could be, injury. That could be the season ends and I want to keep playing, but no team wants to sign me and I'm kind of forced to not play. I mean, I didn't want those things to happen, and I wanted it to all be on my terms. And then just back to my family, it just felt like it was time. My wife is from Oklahoma as well. All of our family is here. My wife has sacrificed so much for me to play and for me to pursue my dreams, and it felt like it was time to kind of return the favor and let her, come here into a new market and explore, career opportunities for herself. And it just, all of those things kind of came together and it just made sense for us. And then, the season obviously ending in, this extremely disappointing fashion, losing to Tulsa. I obviously, yeah, I would love to be like, all right, let's do one more year, but again, I don't want, I don't know. My mind was made up, and yeah, I would have loved to have hosted a USL final and, at least won that game at Tulsa and brought a trophy home to New Mexico. But, regardless of the outcome of that night, again, I was proud of everything I've done, and, and obviously I wasn't satisfied with just making it to the Western Conference, but, being able to, get New Mexico just one step closer and moving in the right direction. And I just think that I would hope that I left this place a little bit better than when I got here. And that was another goal of mine as well.
You mentioned wanting to end your career on your own terms. We've had conversations with Weehan over the past several months. Obviously, he retired after injury. Bruce, you retired after the knee injury this year. Have you had conversations with them? And with Weehan in particular, in between our conversations, he mentioned that it took him some time to come to terms. Coming into your last season, you said you knew that it was going to be it. Like, did having the season ahead of time, knowing that you were going to call it quits, say like, you had time to process that a little bit better? Like, how are you feeling about the decision at this point?
Yeah, I think that's actually that's benefited me extremely well, making that decision prior to the start of the season. Because yeah, I was, the decision was made. I was okay with it, and I told myself I was okay with it no matter what happened, and I really tried to stick to that belief and to that idea that like, no matter what happens here, like this is it. I'm okay with this. And, yeah, I have, Bees is a really good friend of mine. Bruce is a really good friend of mine. And yeah, I was close with Bees throughout that whole process. And, I know it was difficult for him. It was difficult for me, and it was difficult to watch what happened to Bruce this year as well. Um, and yeah, I think making that decision, just, yeah, made, I don't want to say the season easier, but it was smooth. The transition. And I think I actually, I've been way less emotional than what I was expecting. I mean, I've given my whole life to soccer. Like, I've dedicated so much of my life to this sport, and I love football. And I was expecting to be like a mess, like an emotional mess. Like when that final whistle blew, I knew it was my last game. The days afterward, weeks afterward, when the season started now, I was going to be, that's what I was preparing for. But I think because of the decision I made, I wasn't like I thought I would be. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just, I had a year to, prepare essentially. And yeah, there were moments where I was like sad and this and that, but it wasn't like it just all hit me at once. And so all of those things really culminated to like a smooth transition.
Well, Kalen, I can definitely say that you left New Mexico United a better place, having spent that much time here. Us as fans really appreciated everything that you gave to the club, both on and off the pitch. And while it was sad to hear the retirement announcement and everything like that, it's part of soccer. I mean, we see sports in general, anyways. We see club legends retire. We see them transfer out. I know plenty of people that were upset about Akale and Maples leaving this year, and Santi going to Phoenix after the first year. And I mean, there's examples of it left and right. And then I feel very fortunate as a New Mexico United fan that we have seen so many club legends like yourself and Bruce and Dev and Suggs, retire wearing the black and yellow, and having this be the last spot that you guys called home as far as on the pitch. And so I love that we've been able to do that. I used to have the number, but there's a lot of people that played their last professional soccer wearing black and yellow, and I don't take that lightly. And so even if it has been a little weird at preseason without you there, and like Linda said in the chat, we saw Brucey's night. We had Brucey's night there at the end of the year against Rhode Island, and we knew that you were leaving as well, but couldn't send you off with the trophy. So hopefully you'll be back at some point this year or in the future, having a celebration of your career wearing the black and yellow. And I thank you for the time that you gave us tonight. I know there's a bit of a time difference, so it's getting a little late over there. So we'll get you out of here, but would love to have you back on. There's so many topics that I think we couldn't even touch on just because of the time. And honestly, you could have been here for the whole hour and a half, and we'd still want to have you back. So thank you again. Get some rest, and I can't wait to see what you do with all the camera work that you're doing over there. And plug your socials, because I'm sure most people follow what is it, Kalen Keith Images, is that right?
Yeah, it's just Kalen Keith Images, just all one word, lowercase. That's my Instagram photography page. Since you asked me, I guess I'll throw in my shameless plug there at the end.
I appreciate that, because I'm sure most of the people listening, at least live, probably follow that already too, but if you don't, you should. There's some great stuff over there. And so we'll be sure to pass that along as well, and try to build up that following, because I know that in the photography business, Instagram is a big portion of that, especially when it comes to getting your foot in the door in some places. Yeah. So thank you so much, Kalen.
Absolutely. No, thank you guys. Thank you for the send off right there. New Mexico, the black and yellows, those 6 years are the best 6 years of my career. I loved every minute over there. It's truly a special place. Extremely honored that I got to be a part of it. And I'll forever be a part of the black and yellow. You guys will definitely see me this year. I'm going to come back, for at least a couple, if not a few home games. Hopefully the guys have home playoff games, come October or November. But you guys will be seeing me soon for sure. And I'll always come out and say hi and show my love to you guys, since you guys have always shown me love. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the rest of the pod tonight, and I'd be happy to come back on at a later day for sure.
Perfect. We'll get you sometime. We'll get you sometime around the Tulsa match, because I'm sure you'll be at that one. And if you're
you guys coming to Tulsa, I'll drive up for that game for sure.
I want to try to make it to that one. But if you're taking pictures for Tulsa, you better have a black and yellow shirt on underneath or something.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Or I just accidentally only take photos of the New Mexico guys.
That works too.
Do you guys sit in the curse for home games?
No, Seth's usually up in the press box.
Actually, I knew that, Seth.
And I'm usually down on the field. I'm usually taking pictures behind the north goal there.
Yeah, ideally, I'd like to come to a game, like maybe one game, be a photographer. One game, just kind of like be a casual fan, and then one game I want to get rowdy with the fans and
do it,
and get loud and have a good time with those guys. So hopefully I make 2 or 3 games and make all those things happen. But you guys will be seeing me soon for sure, and I'm excited to be coming back.
All right, thank you, Kalen.
Awesome. Thanks, Kalen.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Appreciate you.
Man.
45 minutes went by way too fast.
It did,
especially since we went to 56 minutes with him. But there you go, guys. Kalen Ryden, fan favorite for plenty of good reasons. Loved having him on. That was the first time, with Weehan, I've kind of chatted with him in messages and stuff like that, and kind of have a little bit more rapport with him. And with Kalen, it was definitely kind of that was really the first time we've talked to him at press conferences and stuff like that, but that's the first time we've really got him kind of in a more casual setting and stuff like that. And so that was fantastic. We'll be sure to reach out to him mid-season and try to get him on. And if you're not following Kalen Keith Images on Instagram, you should be. He's got really good stuff there, and he's a very talented soccer player, but he's also a very talented photographer. So go check him out. I don't really have a smooth transition into anything else, Seth. So
no, there's how do you transition out of that, right?
You don't, right?
You don't transition out of a club legend. Like you can't. But you and I talked about it. You said you've been talking to Bees, you've been talking to Kalen now, and it is easier for us, and we've talked about this privately off air. It's far easier for us to get players on once they're no longer with the club.
Yeah.
Once
particularly retired. Not a club. It'd be pretty hard for us to get Talon right now, I would assume. But I
don't know. Let me go email Colorado.
Yeah. Right. But no,
it's
once they retire.
Yeah. We certainly have opportunities, and we've got, obviously, Bees is probably going to become a regular.
Yeah, semi-regular
on the show anyway. So we will have more with him. We definitely want to have Kalen. We have other things in the works. We promise you guys.
I'll spill some beans a little bit.
Go for it.
I have talked to Harry Schwartz and Devin Sandoval, both of which are wanting to come on the show. And so it's kind of, we don't want to do like guest. Bam, 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 bam. And so kind of finding that balance of like no guest, no guest. But we will be having some others on. Harry's probably going to have to be a pre-recorded thing unless we get him when he's in New Mexico for a special night or something like that. I don't know if he'll come for anything like the New Mexico soccer history or anything like that. But other than that,
we'll think Dev will be here for that. Maybe not Harry, but.
Yeah, and we'll try to bring them to you live like we've done with Kalen and Weehan as much as we can. But Harry might either have to go live way earlier in the evening or pre-record something and play it at the normal time. But yeah, it's awesome to. I like getting them after they've retired because they, like Kalen said, he doesn't have to be quite as buttoned up. And I mean, he's still a professional. He's still a great guy. So he's not going to come on here and just go crazy with stuff. But he also isn't, we don't have Bella in the chat watching our every move and stuff. And so it's nice to get them when they're a little more free. But hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. Kalen has always been one of my favorites as far as just his personality and everything like that. And so it was great to finally sit down and have a good conversation with him like that. And we will have him on again for sure.
Yep. Yeah, we absolutely will. And you mentioned it being difficult being out at preseason, not seeing Kalen, him not being a part of the club anymore. And speaking of preseason, there's our segue.
It took us a while to come up with it. Good job.
I was trying. There was another preseason match this past weekend out at the Santa Ana Star Center football field, Bernalillo complex. I don't know. Horse race track grounds. I don't know what you want to call it. Again, and I got reached out to by someone else last weekend asking me for information about the First Financial Credit Union training facility being under construction. Apparently the city was out doing work. That's why the match got moved out to the middle of nowhere on the crappy ass grounds out at Santa Ana.
I thought the email said that it was an unplayable surface there at First Financial, but
the city was doing construction.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did get some clarification on that. But yeah, let me pull it up here. County contractors needed to do work on the field, so they had to move it. We should be back on it next week. We are training on turf right now.
Fun.
But my guess is there's probably something with the plumbing, piping in the area, but because it's just Albuquerque. But I don't have more I don't have more clarification than that. But obviously Santa Ana, not the greatest of locations, particularly for professional players. It's not the greatest for youth or adult players either. But the guys went out, picked up a 2-0 win over Colorado Springs over the weekend. 2 goals.
Yes.
We've been talking about goals. Did Cole shut up?
I honestly don't know.
You don't know.
Sunday and then particularly yesterday were both pretty hectic for me. I don't know if you guys have seen, but there was a couple that shot at state police and then fled, ended up ditching their car and being on foot just south of Fort Sumner. So I was out from about 4:00 last night, or 4:00, yesterday afternoon, to about 1:00 this morning with state police and the sheriff's office trying to locate these individuals. So I was not on my phone a whole lot. Plus, I worked a whole shift before that, and that was after taking a week off. So yesterday was a blur, and then Sunday had some other stuff going on, and so I'm assuming he did, but also maybe not. I don't know. 2 great goals though. The Hurst goal in particular, the Harris goal in particular. See Zico spring Nile. It was great to see Nile kind of up close and personal with that clip, and then he puts in a great cross. What I believe too was Nava. If you were there in person, you might have a better angle than we did on the thing, but I believe he crosses it to Nile or lays it off to Nile or lays it off to Nava. Nava shoots, it gets stopped, but Harris is there to rush in and punch it in. So you see a handful of new guys, or a couple new guys and a couple stalwarts getting involved in that goal, and then Hurst with
nice.
I believe that's Harris that brings that down on the long ball. That touch was immaculate. Holy cow! And then a good ball over to Hurst. Hurst, it's kind of awkward for him, but he's able to control it, find the back of the net. Two very nice goals there, and the defense gave up a shutout. Now this is a Colorado Rapids 2 side.
Yeah, that's not.
It's not their first team by any means. Their first team was too busy playing an MLS match. And so it was a good result. I'm really looking forward to this one this weekend. Josh actually sent me, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but El Paso kind of put out a hype video for a preseason match against us. I'll send you that, Seth, because it's quite funny to me that they were like, hey, it's a preseason match, but we're gonna hype it up. And so they actually pulled Open Cup clips from last year, the penalty shootout in particular. And so it's interesting, but I'm looking forward to that one for sure. And other than that, I mean, there's really no news really whatsoever as far as roster or anything like that. There were a couple of trialists that made their couple of redacteds that returned to the lineup. One of them was Astorga, I'm pretty sure, and then one I'm not sure who it was, and so still some things there. This is not insider info whatsoever, but when Peter was on a few weeks ago, he did mention possibly bringing in another defender. And at the time, I thought that was kind of code for look at mom. Was kind of code for we have somebody in training as a trialist or not announced yet. But I think that is actually like we might be going out and trying to get a loan deal or something like that. I'm hoping for, what I think is a pretty good, I think most USL clubs do a pretty good job of this, but right around this time of year, you can go and get a loan for a borderline MLS player, much like Kip Keller last season. And that's a good way to kind of get $100,000 player for $30,000, right?
Yep.
And so it's a good way for an MLS squad to have one of their fringe players get minutes, get playing time, grow and develop while saving some money on them a little bit. And so I'm excited for the possibility of that. Again, I don't know anything there. Sometimes we come on and we know things. Sometimes we don't. This time I definitely don't. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get some of that kind of loan deal or transfer from an MLS squad or something.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I mean, even last year, if you look at it, like Jabang was late and was a late addition. Among was a late addition. Lindsay was a late addition. Keller obviously came mid-season. Jabang didn't come until mid-season had already started. And so
Zico was a late season ad. Nicky Hernandez was a late season ad.
But those were like 25-day contract guys. Those weren't. Yeah. Those were like, hey, come in. We need somebody. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a permanent deal from the get-go. But
I would
honestly, those 25-day contract guys. You look at Nicky, you look at Zico, you look at Jacobo, you look at Astorga, you look at Abdi Mohammed.
They've turned out pretty well for us.
Yeah, they've all done fantastic for us. So I wouldn't be upset if that is the case and we can find another kind of diamond in the rough like that. But roster still stands the same. Results still stand the same. You know, it was nice to see some scores and keep a clean sheet. Not necessarily nice to see a Rosarena get a red card. We didn't get a clip of that, but
nope.
It seemed like it was pretty legit. So not sure how that fares in the battle between the pipes for starting weekend, but we've got another preseason match coming up against El Paso this week. And then we have a doubleheader on the 7th. We also have the Bash coming up on the 6th.
Hold that thought, Justin.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Hold that thought.
And I'm going to completely derail everything right now, Seth. Okay. We'll get to the Tormenta news and some other stuff. I'm usually pretty quiet about my MLS fandom. Everybody kind of knows I'm an LAFC fan.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced you're an LAFC fan.
I am, believe it or not.
I've never heard you talk about them before. Never.
I don't talk about them a lot. I don't talk about nearly as much as I want to. But I have to talk about them just for a split second here. Okay. They beat Inter Miami 3-0 over the weekend. But more, this is going to be more personal for me. So Seok Heung-min, who comes over from Tottenham, obviously one of my favorite players from Tottenham, comes to LAFC, and then teams up with Denny Bouanga. And I am a Colorado Rockies, Minnesota Timberwolves, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Colorado Avalanche. Now, I've had some success in there.
But are you a Goat Heads fan?
I am now, yes.
Okay.
But there is something really fun and really special to me right now that I don't want to take for granted about watching one of my favorite players for one of my other favorite clubs come to my other stateside team, and just play with such unbridled joy and passion, and seeing him team up with the guys that we got to see play New Mexico United a couple years ago, and Danny Bouanga, Tillman, a few others there, Hollingshead. And so to see that player come over and just bring such joy, it brings me such joy to watching LAFC this year so far, and at the end of last year, that we're probably going to lose viewers because of this little soapbox. But I just wanted to take a couple minutes and say, if you guys ever get the chance to just watch truly special players play for any of your teams, don't take it for granted, because it is it's pretty special. And so Seth, like, I don't know about how you feel, but Freddie Freeman was always one of my favorites when he was with the Braves. And I know it sucks because he's a Dodger now, but I hope you don't take those Freddie Freeman years for granted, just because he moved on and is a Dodger now. But
fuck his agent.
But there's just players like that Kalen is a fantastic example. We had Kalen for 6 years, and I hope that we don't take him or Brucey or Dev or the next Brucey or Dev or Ryden, whoever that may be, for granted, and enjoy it in the moment, because it is fun to watch. So if you want to get to sadder news about Tormenta and the botched job of USL HQ handling this, we can if we must, for the last 15-20 minutes here.
Well, quickly, and I don't know if you caught it over the weekend, but the Academy was in action.
They were.
The Academy was action in the Las Vegas Mayor's Showcase.
That was actually 2 weeks ago, technically, but they didn't announce, or 2 weekends ago, but they didn't announce. They announced one result like right away the other day, and then we didn't get another one until like midweek last week. But they did, and their schedule dropped as well. Yeah.
Academy schedule did drop. That is correct. Las Vegas Mayor Showcase finished 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. Picked up wins over Players SC and Vastra Together FC, a team from Sweden. Sweden, yes. Players SC was out of Las Vegas. United did pick up a draw against the Macclesfield FC Academy. Macclesfield FC, if you're familiar, just beat Crystal Palace in the FA Cup. So, love to see David versus Goliath over there. And then the lone loss was to AC Grand Rapids from Michigan. So, Academy's already in action. We've got a schedule out for them. I don't see it on the website.
No, they dropped it. Excuse me.
I know it's on social. Yeah.
I want to say they have a handful of friendlies to start, and then they will have the regular season startup after that.
Yep. So obviously looking forward to that. We've got United a few weeks away. We've got 10 days to opening day of the USL Championship season. However, there is one team in the USL sphere that will not be fielding a club in 2026, as news broke on Saturday. Within hours of rumors coming out, it was confirmed, and the club came out and said they will not field a club at a South Georgia Tormenta FC, due in large part to unpaid workers' compensation premiums. The club did come out later and say that they did, in fact, secure loans to pay those premiums. However, the club is not fielding a roster. And the league is going to have a draft for the rostered Tormenta FC players. This is, and I've talked to Darren. I've had conversations with Darren Van Tassel on social media. Because I've I've spoken about it over the years. I loved what Tormenta FC was doing. I loved the program that they had. They've done a pretty good job. We've built a pipeline with Tormenta FC. This is shocking. 14 days prior to the start of the season, they've announced that they're not going to have a club, at least for this season, with the intent to return in 2027, 2028. At the very least, there's no club this season. The twos had shown up. Players had shown up, but they couldn't do anything. They couldn't train. They couldn't participate. They couldn't have friendlies. They couldn't. And this is it's just shocking. Not only from leadership of Tormenta, also shocking from USL. They're supposed to audit these clubs at the end of every season. Audit the ownership to ensure that they are financially stable and able to continue. So how this got past the league, how Tormenta got into the spot when they've been one of the most successful League One clubs over the past several seasons. Now, I get it. League One's not going to make a ton of money. You're not. But Tormenta had been very successful. And this goes along. It's akin to the North Carolina news. I think this is worse than the North Carolina news.
Oh yeah, this is by far the worst.
Like, this is awful.
The worst handled, the worst. I mean, it's a shit show from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And it is the first time that I'm like concerned about the future of the Players Association or the CBA, the league as a whole, the whole USL Premier thing. I always trusted that behind the scenes things were going fairly well, and progress was being made, and then this comes out and it is an absolute disaster on a PR side, on a just organizational side for the players. It's the worst. I mean, you're going to get a 3-month severance package, and then maybe play for another team. But like Justin said, I mean, we could go and try to snipe one of their players. I'm assuming the draft is just for USL League One teams, and then if anybody doesn't get picked up there, then they can be picked up as free agents. And so we'll see kind of how that transpires. It's crazy to happen now of all times.
And they've been operating business as usual throughout the entire offseason.
Yeah, I mean, they do the transfer with us, with Nile. They bring in players. They haven't announced anybody for about a month. It's been pretty quiet for the last month, but up until that point, it seemed like they were gonna be normal business as usual, and then all of a sudden, nope. And so, yeah, crazy happenings. It's still fairly early and everything, so I'm assuming USL will put a proper statement out instead of 3 sentences. But I imagine everybody's just wanting to get their ducks in a row before. I'm assuming they were how this was broke. I don't think that's how the league wanted it to break or the team wanted it to break. I think they were probably going to try to kind of button a lot of this stuff up before they dropped the news, but it leaks, it gets out there, and then they can't really avoid it at that point. And so here we are. It's weird. It sucks. I feel bad for the Tormenta players, coaching staff, and all that. We talked about the players. We haven't really talked about the coaching staff, but I imagine they're kind of screwed as well. They might be more screwed than the players, because at least the players can possibly find a home somewhere else. Right now, their coaching staff and trainers and social media team and anybody else that they had on the staff, I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to get a 3-month severance package too, and then get a job at Albertsons for the rest of the season. I don't know. It's crazy. It sucks, and it's Yeah, it's just brutal.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no other way to say that. Like the academy and the youth teams are still going to still operate. It's just the professional
Yeah.
club that's not operating. Like I don't. I said I've had conversations with Darren. This is a shock. Yeah. So they're having to scramble to remake the schedule.
Mhm.
You know, the players are going to have to. You know, like I said, they're drafting the players. Yeah, I don't know. It's very concerning. You know, obviously League One is on a different CBA than Championship is.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as the Championship CBA, my understanding is that if no agreement is reached, they can continue to operate under the same and basically an ongoing resolution essentially for another season, unless one side decides to terminate, which either side could, and we could still head for a lockout. I don't know, but this speaks to the instability of anything outside of MLS. I hate to say it, you know,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, we've seen clubs fold at the championship level. We haven't seen MLS clubs. We've seen MLS certainly fumble some things, right? We've seen them fumble the whole Sacramento San Antonio thing. We've seen them, honestly, we've seen them fumble other things. I don't think they're handling. Anyway, MLS is a whole other discussion, but there are concerns. There haven't always been concerns about the stability of USL, of Championship, League One. NISA obviously is in NISA still intending to try to operate this fall. I don't see how.
Yeah.
NPSL, UPSL, WPSL, ECN, they all seem to have some level of stability. But again, they're certainly not operating with the same budget at the same level that the Championship is or League One is. And none of them are operating the same level that MLS is.
Yeah.
I don't know how this translates to Premier. Again, we've had the conversation. How do they keep the clubs afloat when they relegate? How does the league support these clubs financially? It's season in and season out, right? We know there are balloon payments over in other pyramids. I don't think USL can do that.
Yeah,
they can't. Yeah, I don't know. It's concerning.
It is, and I've been fairly optimistic and kind of. I won't go as far to say I won't even go near as far as say that I'm like on the league side of the league versus player thing, but I definitely feel like I'm kind of like in the middle, like I am with most things, where I can kind of see positives and negatives on both sides. And I've always kind of had it in my head, like, hey, like things are going on behind the scenes in a positive way, right? Like, surely the league's not stupid enough to haggle over a couple pennies and dimes when they have all this momentum going forward right now. But then something like this happens, and it's like, oh, and I see comments on both sides of the league's fucking up and blah 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 blah, and yes, they are at times and in ways, but also I can't look past Tormenta in this situation. Like I've seen a lot of pointing at the league, and I'm concerned about the league, but Tormenta is the one that did this. Like, and it's kind of like, sure, the league could maybe do more to prevent stuff like this, and maybe they do. And this one's I don't know what happened. I'm not privy to that information. It's just like Tormenta. What the fuck? Like, what are you doing? And so United has something special here. If I feel like we're gonna eventually get a stadium. We're not going anywhere. We'll still be a part of the league. as long as the league is here, right? Josh mentions that the pro rel and stuff like that is pretty risky and could lead to the league crumbling if it doesn't go well. And I agree fully. I've been pro league in the sense that I feel like they're going to get their shit together in some way, shape, or form. I've also been very leery of Premier, of USL Premier and the D1 status. Not to say that it won't happen. I'm just saying that like I have been like, okay, but what about what you have now? Which I think is what a lot of people have said. And so time will tell, you know, this Tormenta situation, the Premier, the Pro Rel, the Players Association, the CBA, you know, time will tell on all of that. And I love to sit here and, you know, play the media card and say we have some insider info, blah, 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 blah. But in truth of the matter is, I don't think anybody has any insider info on the CBA and stuff like that. I think if you do, you have it being fed to you from one side or the other.
Yeah.
Which is not going to be the whole story. And so, so we will sit here just like the rest of y'all and wait for the Tormenta thing to be resolved, for the CBA to be resolved, for Premier to come. And that'll be that. It sucks for the Tormenta players, like I mentioned, and kind of USL League One and USL and everything as a whole. I mean, it just kind of sucks all around. Unprecedented situation. I mean, never in my wildest dreams would I think somebody's going to fold up shop, you know, 2 weeks before season starts. But here we are.
Yeah. And yeah, to your point about us in this stadium and all that, like we did recently just get extended at Isotopes Park again. So
through 29?
Through 29. Yeah, through 29. We tried to verify on this article. I've seen it in one article, but not in some others. But yeah, so the neighbors of the stadium project are now taking the case to the New Mexico Court of Appeals, but that may not be the end of it. So these 11 people need to get their heads out of their asses.
Basically,
that's all I'm gonna like. I you know, look, you got to move forward at some point. You can't be afraid to develop and move forward. I mean, you can't. These individuals, they need to just get their heads out of their asses, and you know, whatever the case is, like. But yeah, we've been extended to Isotopes Park through at least 29, which is unfortunate, but I mean, nothing can happen.
We have a home at least. That's
we do.
Something.
We do, and honestly, the league has given us a lot of grace with this. Whereas with other clubs who have no plans, such as El Trasho, you know, we haven't seen any plans at all for a stadium for El Trasho. So
yeah, at all.
Who knows? Who knows what's going on with that? But yeah. Mentioning over in chat, Supporter Summit is this week on Thursday over at the Sheehan Winery from 5:30 to 7:30. So get out. Now, how much of that is going to be discussed? I don't know. I mean, there's probably not a whole lot more detail that Ron or Pete or anyone can give us other than what Pete's already said to the papers.
Yeah,
like, it's just it's not the club that's involved in the legal stuff. It's the city and the neighborhood at this point. But I mean, the city's still doing work on the infrastructure out there, which has to be done anyway. Already, it was going to be done no matter what. Like, that's not the issue. It's the stadium. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's.
Well, keep in mind, we had a great conversation with Kalen Ryden at the beginning of this before the mood turned sour. I'm going to say no stoppage time tonight. We're going to get out of here. Justin, Bry, I think Eric was over there. Josh, of course, is over there. Linda's over there. Linda, I appreciate you joining us. I'm enjoying what we're doing this season as well. So glad you are as well. Jake, Michael Bencomo, Mom and Christina, Raylene, Jeremiah's mom, all of you guys, thank you so much. We'll be back next week, maybe with some news, maybe not. We'll see. We'll at least be able to have some tweets to dig through and hopefully some trash to talk to El Paso. We will maybe there'll be some developments with this Tormenta thing. Maybe we'll have a new defender announced or something like that. We will see, but it's weird. The news has dipped drastically so it's like building, and then we've kind of like dipped or plateaued here for a little while before the regular season. But the regular season is only like 3 weeks away, and so we open up our season March 14th at Oakland, and so it'll be here before you know it. And then there's the academy schedule, a few home friendlies coming up late this month, early or late this month, and then late next month. And then the regular season really starts going April 18th. The white games there are the home games, which threw me off when I first looked at this. And so a couple of Sunday games, couple of Friday games, one Saturday game. Be sure to try to make it out to one of those. I've yet to make it out to one. I plan on making it out to some this year, though. Really want to see what the future of New Mexico soccer has for us. And so check that out. Circle some matches on there. I mentioned the Goat Heads. They got their affiliation announced with United. Hockey is a great sport. If you don't really understand it or watch it, hey, I didn't understand or watch soccer until United came along. So hop on the bandwagon with the Goat Heads and go join them out there in Rio Rancho. The El Paso match is Saturday at 1 or 5. I cannot remember, but it is Saturday. It's not streamed anywhere that I know of. And so, I mean, if you talk to the guys over at Seriously Loco, there have been matches that they didn't even know happened until after they happened because the team's not putting anything out. And so 2 p.m. is what that says there. So, and that will be not at Southwest University Park, but at their training center instead. So I don't believe it's going to be open to the public. Don't believe we'll get streaming of it, but we will get, I'm sure we'll get tweets on United's account as well as maybe some videos of goals and whatnot. So we'll have a little bit to go off of. We'll be back. Oh, excuse me. We will be back. I almost died there. We will be back next week to talk about that and anything else that happens. And there'll probably be some nonsense as well. So thank you guys so much. Love you all. Until next week. Sumos News.